Welcome back everybody to Free Film Friday. So this is where I recommend free films from my collection and talk through the film itself and my thoughts about it. So the first film that we're going to be looking at is Battle in Outer Space. And this is a cracking little sci-fi film from 1959, directed by long held in high regard director Ishiro Honda, who known for doing the Godzilla films. He did the first one, and he did several in the other series in the 60s and 70s. He also directed 3 films that would go on to be future kaiju monsters in those films, and then would subsequently be used in the Godzilla films themselves. So Mothra, Rodan and Varan were all used in future Godzilla films. So he was a major director in the 50s and 60s and had a couple of hits in the 70s as well. And this film stars Korea Senda, who was in Tora Tora Tora, which was an American and Japanese co-production depicting the Battle of Pearl Harbor, and then it also was in The H-Man, which this film is actually part of a double collection of, and also Varan, and it also stars Ryo Akiba, who was also in Gorath, again another film directed by Ishiro Honda, and this is a film set in 1965, and it's about the space station JSS-3 that is destroyed by a fleet of UFOs. And which then begin to global siege on Earth using rays to manipulate gravity and control the minds of men. And in response, a global council meets to determine the source of the attacks and prepare a rocket ship armada for a counterattack, resulting in a true battle in outer space. So, in typical Honda fashion, this has really, really good miniatures on the go. Really nice action scenes as well. But crucially, it's a pure slice of 50s sci-fi fun, and it's got a well-structured plot, a cracking score, it's engrossing throughout, the cast is good, and to be honest the only things that really hold it back are some poor optical effects, but thankfully the miniatures and action scenes mostly make up for that. And it's a fantastic film throughout. It's not particularly long, it's however long it 91 minutes, so it's in and out in no time at all. It's by far one of the shorter films of its type from that period. And a little bit of a fact, it predicted us landing on the moon, as well as having TV screens in cars, which I don't think many people would have predicted back in that day. So in the day, so it's a fantastic film. It's easily my favourite non-kaiju film that Ishiro Honda has made. Like I said, he's made plenty of kaiju films and all of that lot, but it's definitely my favourite that isn't, specifically a kaiju film. So, highly recommend trying it out, especially if you're into Japanese films or sci-fi films from the 50s, as it's a perfect slice of that kind of thing. And then moving swiftly on, as we have to move a few decades forward, with 1997's Dante's Peak, which is a disaster film. And it's directed by Roger Donaldson, who directed No Way Out, The Bank Job and Sleeping Dogs. Not the game, but a film from 1977, which was the first starring role for Sam Neill. And this stars Pierce Brosnan, who's probably most well known for being in 4 Bond films, 2 of which were really rather good, and 2 of which really weren't. But also in the likes of The Ghostwriter and Seraphim Falls, which are 2 films that I've enjoyed from him as well. But also he was known for being in like Mamma Mia and stuff like that. So but to be honest, outside of his Bond films, there's not many that I've enjoyed from him. But regardless, it's also got Linda Hamilton, who again is known for her own series, starring in 3 Terminator films, as well as being in Children of the Corn and Black Moon Rising. And it's about volcanologist Harry Dalton, played by Pierce Brosnan, who comes to the sleepy town of Dante's Peak to investigate the recent rumblings of the dormant volcano the town is named for. Before long, though, his worst fears are realised when a massive eruption hits, and immediately Harry, the mayor and the townspeople find themselves fighting for their lives amid a catastrophic nightmare. And this is easily my favourite disaster film of the 90s. It really did bring back the kind of golden age of the disaster film genre from the 70s, and it's easily the best since Towering Inferno, to be honest. And although it's not, the only good disaster film from that period, I really do like Deep Impact. It's definitely the best of the lot. But this was released alongside Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, which this is easily better than, as it's a lot more scientifically accurate, and it's also got 2 cracking lead performances from the cast, good supporting cast, The chemistry between the two leads is really nice. It's got a solid score, it is well paced, and the plot is engrossing. But what really sets it apart from other films of the time is that it doesn't really rely on special effects. It does have special effects to, you know, liven up the practical effects, but on the whole, it is a lot of miniatures. It is a lot of physical work that's gone into doing this, and it's not just all computer based. And yeah, as a result, even 24 years later, it's nearly celebrated its 25th anniversary, this still looks absolutely amazing. And yeah, the pyroclastic flow scene still is one of the most riveting disaster scenes in any film ever, as far as I'm concerned, because the miniatures make it feel very real, but then you've got the tension of the characters fleeing it, and the gradually getting closer and closer to them, because it starts off in the forest, then it moves to a cabin, and then it moves to the outer limits of the town, and then it's just flattening the town one after the other building. It's just going bang, 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 and it's just incredible, and it still looks amazing to this day. And you can really see that they put a lot of effort into those special effects, as well as the practical effects as well. So yeah, and it's also, like I said, really scientifically accurate, unlike Volcano, which is really rather ludicrous. And yeah, I really, really do enjoy it. So yeah, highly recommend watching it, even though it does have some disaster cliches going through it. The dog gets saved, for instance, but yeah, the flaws are very, very minor in comparison to the breadth of the film, which is, like I said, incredible. And yeah, it's not particularly long either. It's only hour 48, so it's not particularly long, but it makes the most of that time. It's really not a film that is rushing to get to the disaster scene. It does take its time to build up characters, and yeah, slowly build up the mounting tension and threat of the volcano. So yeah, incredible film, easily one of my favourite disaster films, like I said, not just from the 90s but of all time. And yeah, third and final film that we're going to be looking at is In Bruges, which is a dark comedy, or black comedy as it's called. And yeah, this is from 2008, directed by Martin McDonagh, who also did the fantastic films Seven Psychopaths and Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. And it stars Colin Farrell, who's in Widows, The Lobster, Minority Report, as well as Seven Psychopaths, but also a whole host of other films. And it also stars Brendan Gleeson, who's in 4 Harry Potter films, as well as 28 Days Later, Paddington 2, as well as The Guard and Calvary, which were directed by John Michael McDonagh, the brother of Martin McDonagh. And those two films do consequently feel quite like In Bruges in a lot of ways. It's quite darkly comic, but also has quite a flawed lead character, just like in this film. And it also stars Ralph Fiennes, who again was in a number of Harry Potter films, 5 of them in fact, as well as 2 James Bond films, soon to be a third with No Time to Die being released, as well as 2 of my favourite recent comedy films, Hail Caesar and The Grand Budapest Hotel. And yeah, Ray and Ken, Ray played by Colin Farrell and Ken played by Brendan Gleeson, are 2 hitmen who are in Bruges in Belgium, waiting for their next mission. While they are there, they have time to think and discuss their previous assignment, which went horribly wrong. And yeah, when the mission is revealed to Ken, though, it is not what he expected. So yeah, hilarious film, to be honest, and yeah, really well paced. Has a good mix, well, a perfect mix, quite frankly, of dark comedy and crime thriller. The cast are all great. It has got plenty of laughs, dramatic heft. It's got a solid amount of characterisation. I love the setting of Bruges. It's not something that you ever really see in these kind of films, and yeah, it's really nice in terms of the way that it's historical city, but yeah, it's not obsessed with the history of the city itself. And yeah, it's got a well done score. The violence and action is well executed while being really rather quite brutal at times. And the plot, though hardly complicated, is nonetheless engrossing. And yeah, word of warning though, if you are going to watch it, it is quite sweary in quite a Irish/British kind of way. A lot of the C word is dropped, but yeah, it's hilarious throughout, and not just because it's sweary, but because it's really well written. And yeah, the cast is superb as well. So yeah, there we go. 3 films that I've recommended from my collection. All 3 films that I highly recommend. 3 films that are, in their own way, really rather good. We've got sci-fi, disaster, and black comedy. And there they are, all 3 of them. Sorry about the glare that's currently going on. Yeah, there you go. You can see them. And yeah, those 3 films really do sum up my collection quite a lot, because they are incredibly varied, really got very little in common with one another in terms of genre or the way they are directed or acted or anything like that. And yeah, three fantastic films. So yeah, if you've not seen them, then go out there and get them. I'm pretty sure In Bruges and Dante's Peak are easy to find, but Battling Out of Space being quite a rarer Japanese film and only really getting a release on Blu-ray might be a bit more difficult to get a hold of. But if you can get a hold of it, then do get a hold of it, especially if you can get it with the H-Man in this double collection that I got, because the H-Man is also really rather good, also directed by Honda. So yeah, nonetheless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.